What's up, and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars, where today we're talking about the very first film adaptation from Nicholas Sparks, and that is Message in a Bottle, which is one of the few films of his I've never actually seen. I've seen around, I'd say, 50 to 75% of his movies. There's quite a few out there. I'm considering making this a movie marathon to check out all of his movies, but that honestly kind of sounds a bit of a nightmare. But I did want to see this first film because just like a franchise, a first movie is often regarded as the best film. And even if it's not, it's at least regarded as up there. And nowadays, we all have an expectation of what a Nicholas Sparks film will be. So I especially wanted to know, could a blind audience member who has those expectations go back and watch this first film and still be surprised? Or will it just feel like all the others? That's the crux of the day. Let's get cracking. This review is brought to you by the word of the day, crux, a puzzling or difficult problem, aka an unsolved question. Message in a Bottle is about a newspaper journalist that one day comes across a message in a bottle that she finds on a beach. The message in question is an elegant love letter to a mysterious woman named Catherine. Through a bit of investigation at work, she finds out who the writer is and heads to North Carolina to meet him and find out more about his story. But she doesn't let him know what she knows right away because she immediately begins to fall for his charm. So as I've said before, we all come to expect certain things from Nicholas Sparks, right? So first of all, what are those things? Other than a sappy love story, check. We expect a theme of death, check. And some kind of emotionally driven scene in the rain. It could be a fight, it could be something super romantic, it could be both. But it needs to be emotionally charged. That's the important thing. The rain is almost metaphorical every single time. And yes, check there too. Unsurprisingly, Message in a Bottle definitely checks those boxes and is indeed chock full of Nicholas Sparks tropes. But that doesn't necessarily make a movie bad. Maybe cheesy, maybe slightly predictable, but not bad. Because I'll be honest, I liked this movie. I did. I got into it. And not only that, but one thing Nick Sparks often does, at least for me, is take a story that's somewhat predictable and still pulls one over on you, which this film also does pretty well. And even though this film is over 20 years old at this point, I still don't feel right spoiling you to discuss what I want to discuss, and boy, do I. Instead, I want to talk about the actual element that people would actually like here, and that is the concept and the chemistry between the two leads. It is, after all, a romance, and if you don't get these things right, you don't have much legs to stand on. The concept was pretty fresh. In a pre-cell phone era, the message in a bottle concept is intriguing and something I've always been interested in when I was younger. I might have even thrown a bottle into the sea or lake because it really is genuinely interesting, the mystery of who sent it, imagining their lives. We've definitely moved past the idea of using our imaginations and thinking of others, as our phones and computers and internets have all kind of kept us with a one-track, closed-off mind. It may be a cliche, but times were indeed simpler back then. As for the chemistry between the two leads, they were solid. A lot of romance films, even from Sparks himself, feature young love, people in their 20s and younger. But in this film, we're talking about late 30s, even 40s here. We're talking about a mature relationship which carries a lot more baggage than young love. And as I grow older, the more of that I can appreciate. Again, I wish I could just dive more in depth about how those tropes play into this film, but that might just be too spoilery. Just know that this film was mostly done right. It was mostly deserved. There was one part of the film that I felt was undeserving and I felt was mostly random and out of the blue. I imagine the book approached it better, but for what it wasn't terrible. I can tell you that I was mostly impressed with this film. I expected something terribly sappy and something I'd probably laugh at while watching, and sure, I did point to the screen and yell, "There it is!" when the emotionally charged rain scene showed up, but that's only because I was waiting for it. The rest of the movie was relatively solid and respectable. I actually don't think anything about it is inherently bad. I may not want to buy or own it, but that's all I gotta say there as far as negatives go. Let's go ahead and break this thing further by looking at the unbiased and biased score. From an unbiased perspective, I think the main thing that you'll be looking at is the people and the writing scores, both of which are really good, but only subtly so. These aren't terrible characters. They have a lot of depth there that you can learn more and more about as the film progresses. And obviously, dialogue is important for the writing because of the actual messages in the bottles. It also has a decent sense of story depth and pacing, right? So that unbiased score is pretty high at 82%, and my biased score is even higher at 88% because I'm not the biggest romance guy, but I certainly had a few goosebumps while watching. These two have a very decent level of chemistry that is both common and uncommon at the same time due to their ages. When we average the two scores together, we come to 85%, 85 out of 100 possible stars, granting Message in a Bottle with a letter grade of B. Not bad, actually. And if I actually end up doing a Nicholas Sparks marathon, this set the bar pretty high, so it'll be interesting to see how the others compare. But I would like to hear your thoughts on Nicholas Sparks in general, and which of his films do you consider the best? Also, tell me if you think I should continue watching and reviewing Nicholas Sparks films. As for YouTube, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button if you like this review, because there's more like it coming out. Hit the thumbs up button, because that always helps out my channel, and don't forget about the little bell icon, because that'll help notify you when I come out with my next review. And until then, peace out!